As someone who is from the Netherlands and has lived in Spain and in the US, I've seen my fair share of suburbs. But today in this video, let's look at the differences between American and European suburbs and ultimately which of those is better. So let's go ahead and find out.
This is a typical American suburban street. It's wide, the houses are very far apart and look mostly the same. There is barely anything on the well-manicured lawns, post boxes, a few trees or bushes, and the occasional fire hydrant. Now compare this to a suburb in Leipzig, Germany. What differences do you notice? First off, there is stuff around you. The streetscape is very diverse and mentally engaging. In comparison, the American suburb looks like a desolate urban wasteland. Also, in the European suburb, the street is narrow, there is a 30 km/h speed limit, and the buildings are close together. Do notice the tram tracks. In this suburb, you can live car-free. If you want to go to the center, you can either take the tram or ride your bike for 20 minutes on dedicated bike lanes.
That's one thing about the American suburbs, or just America in general, that you're kind of almost caged in your home if you don't have a car, and you're forced to have a car in most cases, and it just feels kind of claustrophobic to me. I know when I first got there, I was like, where is everyone? I just didn't see anyone outside. And that's something that you see often in the Netherlands. You just see people walking or biking. But when I got there in the US, I was like, where are the people? And that's just something I noticed is very different and made me feel kind of uneasy about America in general. That you can't just go somewhere quickly without a car, and it just feels kind of like you're isolated or something.
Or take the S-Bahn because there is also a train station. In the American suburb, you have no option but to drive. Head out onto the busiest road, a horrifying mix of street and road, onto the jammed highway, and after an hour you'll be in the center, searching for a parking spot. How about going to a restaurant? In the European suburb, there are dozens of different, unique, local restaurants reachable on foot, by bike, or public transit. In the American suburb, you're an hour walk away from a chain restaurant next to a busiest road. If you want to eat, you gotta get in your car. What if you have children? In this European suburb, there are 3 schools close by. Kids can walk or bike there on their own and learn to be independent early on. In the American suburb, a child could get to school after 35 minutes of walking, mostly along a busy arterial road, also having to cross a 6-lane road. And somehow, there's no crosswalk, so kids have to be driven to school every day by mommy and daddy. The same goes for sports. Over here, kids can take a 10-minute walk to the nearest sports field or a 3-minute bike ride on calm, safe streets on their own. In the US, it's a 40-minute march through a maze of streets, partially along a major transit artery. You gotta get in the SUV and let mommy drive you to practice. This is where the term soccer mom originates from, by the way. People lament today's children for being overly dependent on their parents, but in such neighborhoods, children don't have a choice but to be dependent. Otherwise, they cannot go anywhere.
Before it goes on, that's very interesting, because I've heard of the term soccer mom, but I never really knew where that came from. But that makes sense, and it just seems when you're like a child, a teenager especially, you want to find your own way in life more and be more independent and do your own thing. So to then have to ask every time you want to go do something because you need to be driven, that seems pretty annoying. And also for the parents, I can imagine that, you need to just think more about your time in the day and if you need to drive your children somewhere. So it seems less efficient.
Are stuck at home. In contrast, in European suburbs, kids can be let out safely to move around on their own, to go to places they want to, without the need for the mommy and daddy taxi service. Do note that yellow residential building on the left. That is a mid-rise. European suburbs tend to be a mixture of those and single or multi-family homes, like on this street. Zoning in US suburbs only allows for single-family homes, and they are usually placed very far apart, leading to low density and long distances. This makes public transportation non-viable. Over here in Europe, hundreds of people live within walking distance of this tram stop. In the US, if you put a tram stop here, you'd have a few dozen people living within walking distance. Meaning, even if you built public transit here, almost nobody would take it, because no matter how you build it, people would be too far away from it. If you're half an hour away on foot from the nearest tram stop, you'll take your car instead. And people do. So giant highways had to be built, rammed right into the city, usually demolishing non-white neighborhoods in the process.
It's just such a shame, because I wish for people in America to be able to experience how easy it is to take the public transport and make use of that, instead of always having to take your car. And also for the children to experience having more freedom to go where they want on their own without having to ask their parents. But it makes sense that it's hard to do with the way that everything's set up there, which he just explained, that it's just, even if you build or make those tram stops or bus stops, that people will still be too far away from them, or you just, I guess, need to have a lot of stops, which is also inefficient. So I'm not sure how you would really go about making this better, or how you would go about implementing public transit more. If you have any idea of what could be done, then let me know in the comments.
The result was mass motorization all across America, constant traffic jams, noise and pollution, but not for the suburbanites. It was the urban dwellers, particularly those who were poor, who had to live near high traffic areas in cheap, low-quality housing. The suburbs also became a growth Ponzi scheme, where income from the suburbs couldn't cover future infrastructure overhauls, so the city had to expand and sell new properties constantly to get enough money to maintain what they already have. Not Just Bikes did a great video about this, link in the description. The suburbs and car-centric development were useful political tools in the 1950s to enforce a Christian conservative, white nationalist hierarchy within American society, where white men are on top, women are at home, fully dependent on their husbands, and where all resources are channeled towards the white middle and upper class in the form of billions in state subsidies. And
hold on, did I speed this up? No. Okay. My Dutch brain is like, what is going on? But that's my
rest of society, poor people, non-whites, were left to fend for themselves in decaying urban centers, sucked dry financially by the parasitic suburbs around them. Car-centric planning became a weapon of choice for conservatives in order to maintain the unequal status quo. And this phenomenon isn't unique to America. In Europe, as our cities transition away from cars, the opponents of this change are almost always conservatives. While the incumbent Paris mayor campaigned on eliminating 50,000 parking spaces, her conservative opponent, who looks frankly diabolical even by French standards, wanted to halt decongestion measures. In Prague, a city overrun by cars, conservatives keep screaming about these cyclo-fascists ruining the city after a shadow is painted somewhere. Meanwhile, conservative district mayors are busy turning sidewalks into parking lots. In Madrid, the conservative city leadership cancelled the ultra-low emission zones, leading to local protests to bring them back. In Budapest, we have Orbán's far-right conservatives screaming about how there is a witch hunt against drivers by the new center-left mayor, and complaining how in inner-city Budapest it's almost faster to walk now than to drive. Even in Germany, Bavarian conservatives are dumping money into highways while letting the rail network fall into disrepair. As a rule of thumb, in every city with decongestion measures, you'll also find conservatives screaming about the war on cars.
But I'm just, what's so wrong with public transport and investing in that? To me, it makes more sense to invest in it than complain about it being there, because even if you yourself want to take the car, then it will make your life better if there's less people on the road, so that you're not just stuck in traffic jams all the time.
symbol of hierarchy in transportation, where the affluent suburban minority gets to occupy 80% of public space inside cities, compared to the more egalitarian space use of public transit and bicycles. God forbid you have to get out of your giant SUV of death and get on a tram with the peasants. Of course, upholding the conservative hierarchy isn't why suburbs are built today in the US. It's mostly just a necessary continuation of the Ponzi scheme that began with the first suburbs. Also, it's due to faulty zoning codes not allowing for mid-rise developments that would actually make more money for the city, increase density, and make public transit viable. In Europe, our suburbs are mixed, with both mid-rises, single and multi-family homes. They're an organic part of the city and contribute fairly to the local budget. There is also subsidized, affordable public transit. All in all, it's more egalitarian. And if the US situation sounds depressing in contrast, as an American, there are things you can do to potentially help change things. If there is a local transit riders union, go join it. Look if there are any initiatives on the ballot for traffic calming, bike lanes, etc. Show up to your local town hall meetings and advocate for zoning reform, ending parking minimums, and so on. If you're persistent enough, your ideas will be heard, and you can help push America back towards sensible, fair, more egalitarian urban planning, one neighborhood at a time. That's what I would do if I were you.
Very good that he put those points out there on like what you can do, because I wouldn't know. But it is a shame that these zoning laws are set up that way, and I wonder why that is, or what good it does for the cities and the suburbs, because it doesn't seem like it does that much good. So I wonder why they did it like that. But yeah, I must agree that all in all, I think the European suburbs are better too. I'm not just saying that because I'm from Europe, but that's just my experience. What I've seen so far, that in these American suburbs, it's almost like you just have your home and that's it. For example, in the Netherlands, you can easily take walks around the whole neighborhood. I really like that aspect, that I don't feel as cooped up in my home, and you see people out and about in your neighborhood, and it just creates a more lively, more warm feeling to me. But let me know what your perspective on this is as an American, and also for any Europeans that are watching.